You have traveled back in time, standing in a dim room with an antique revolver in your hand. In front of you is a young man destined to commit a terrible act. You have the opportunity to pull the trigger and stop him. The target in your sights is your own grandfather, years before your parent was even born. If you succeed, history changes instantly. Your grandfather dies, which means your parent is never conceived. And if your parent doesn't exist, neither do you. Which brings us to a logical wall. If you were never born, you couldn't have built a time machine. So who fired the weapon? Consider a struggling musician who stumbles across an old, unmarked cassette tape containing a brilliant, completely unreleased song. He learns the track, releases it as his own, and becomes a massive star. Years later, haunted by guilt, he uses a time machine to travel back and drop that exact tape in the exact spot for his younger self to find. The young musician only knows the melody because the older version of himself provided it, but the older version only knew it because he found the tape. The information is caught in a perfect circle. The sheet music, the written lyrics, the vocal melody, they all exist, but the song itself was never actually written by anyone. This mathematical trap was actually tested in reality. In 2014, researchers at MIT tried to recreate this exact logical loop in a laboratory using a single particle of light. They simulated sending a photon backward in time by a fraction of a second. They gave it a specific mission. The photon was programmed to trigger a switch that would shut down its own emission, stopping it from ever being fired. It is the grandfather paradox stripped down to pure physics. Can a real, measurable particle destroy its own past? These theoretical roadblocks are known as the grandfather paradox and the bootstrap paradox. For decades, they stood as the ultimate logical arguments against backward time travel. In the mid-1980s, Russian physicist Igor Novikov proposed a mathematical solution. It is called the Novikov self-consistency principle. Novikov argued the universe won't allow a contradiction. If an event threatens the past, reality bends to route around the paradox. Under Novikov's principle, you can travel back and pull the trigger, but the gun jams, you slip, or a bird blocks the bullet. The universe enforces a strict self-correction mechanism. Any action that attempts to rewrite history is mathematically guaranteed to fail. We can see this self-correction at work. When those MIT researchers ran their simulation, the photon never managed to flip the kill switch. This chart shows the experimental system's failure rate. As the photon was maneuvered closer to successfully stopping its own creation, the rate of experimental failure exponentially increased. The timeline refused to be broken. Theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking reviewed this behavior and gave it a formal name, the chronology protection conjecture. The universe actively and aggressively defends its own history from external tampering. What happened, happened. This brings us to a harsh psychological reality. If time travel ever becomes possible, it will not come with the freedom to fix our mistakes. Every action you take in the past was written into the timeline before you built the machine. You aren't making choices, you're simply fulfilling fate. Stepping into the past strips away your agency. Your future might be unwritten, but your history is an inescapable cage. There is only one theoretical escape hatch from this trap, and it lies in the strange rules of quantum mechanics, the many worlds interpretation. In this model, if you force a contradiction and pull that trigger, you don't rewrite history. Instead, you violently shatter reality, creating a parallel timeline. You exist in this new world, but your original timeline remains permanently broken and unchanged. Technology might eventually give us the power to visit the ghosts of our past, but the fundamental laws of physics will never allow us to save them.